Hello friends, today I am going to teach you a few different ways on how you can make room sprays for yourself. It is actually a very simple and very easy process that you can do at home, but mostly there's just a little few things that you got to watch out for that are going to make your life easier, help you from making a huge mess or ruining your products or different things. So I'll give you all the tips and tricks that I know. Really, any scent product basically works like this. You have a base that helps your oil diffuse, and then you have your oil. Now for this, I'm going to be using fragrance oils. A lot of you may want to use essential oils. Those can be a lot more tricky. I suggest practicing with fragrance oils first, because you're not going to have to learn exactly what base you're using, how it interacts with the oil, how it'll bond, all those different kind of chemistry things. It's going to be pretty much, you can take almost any fragrance oil, and especially for room sprays, my next video will be diffusers. That may be a little bit different because there's some more chemistry that gets involved there. But as far as candles and room sprays, most oils that you'll find from the big brands, you're going to be able to use, no issue. I want to keep it super simple, super easy, and then once you're more practiced, jump into some of the more advanced stuff like trying to bond with essential oils. So the first way I'm going to show you is the way that I do it, and I think it is the best and easiest way, but I have made more natural room sprays where I use witch hazel and things like that. I just want to give a caveat to that. The reason that I don't do the witch hazel is because it is not as shelf stable, and it also requires more ingredients to be able to get it to mix the correct way. So I will give you on screen a recipe for if you want to do something a little more natural with witch hazel and you don't want to do the method that I'm about to show you in this video. That is basically going to be the same process, except your base isn't going to come pre-mixed. You're going to see that it takes some Perfumers Alcohol, some witch hazel, and some Polysorbate 20. That may sound scary, but all that chemical does is it helps your fragrance oil bond with your witch hazel. Now, the witch hazel is less shelf stable than the Perfumer Alcohol, so if you're just using it in small batches or you're using it at your home and you're going to keep it out of sunlight, it's not going to sit in a store like my products do, you can bump up the witch hazel and bump down the Perfumer Alcohol to meet your needs. However, make sure that you use the same amount of polysorbate as you do fragrance oil. Otherwise, it won't blend properly, especially if you're increasing the amount of witch hazel you use. However, for this, I'm going to give you a great Perfumer Alcohol that you can use that already has everything measured out. It doesn't use Polysorbate 20, it uses a type of glycol that helps everything blend and diffuse really nicely. And it's eco-friendly, it's safe, there's no studies that say that there's anything bad. Sometimes chemicals and synthetic things aren't bad. They can actually help make your product better. And sometimes we get too focused on making things all natural that we can actually make a worse product. So don't be too afraid, do your research, look things up, but everything that I make is going to be okay, it's going to be safe to use, it's going to be good for the environment, and it's going to be healthy, because we don't want any bad stuff in there. So I'll also link you down in the description. On Amazon, pretty much everything that I'm about to show you, the only things that aren't going to be there are going to be the perfume alcohol that I'm going to recommend that you use. That is from another company. And then I'm going to recommend a couple different places to look for fragrance oils, because blending them and making your own fragrance can be very difficult. It takes a lot of knowledge, a lot of time, and honestly a lot of money, because you're going to have to buy all these little, usually they come, the small size is 1 ounce. This is actually one that I used a long time ago, and it is from brand Candle Science. That is a great place to look for your oils. And then Makesy is going to be another one. These are nice if you're just starting out, you're not going to make your own fragrances, and you just want to have something pre-blended that smells good. Candle Science are pretty good for the most part, kind of hit and miss depending on what exactly you're looking for. Makesy is really going to be your more expensive option, but pretty much all of those are going to be, they did all the work for you, whatever type of fragrance you're trying to make. What you're paying for is their knowledge in blending them all together. you get a finished product. Just take it, pour it, you're good to go. You don't have to worry about adding things, taking things away, but they are a bit more expensive. So depending on what level of work you want to put into it, candle science is when you're maybe wanting to do a little bit of work yourself, but you don't want to completely come up with a fragrance from scratch. Makesy is going to kind of be, I just want to take it, pour it, and be done, not think about it. That's going to be great. So if it's your first time, maybe try something from there. They've got some really great fragrances that I used years ago when I was first starting out on my candle making journey. And so I really do like a lot of their fragrances and their products. But we're going to go ahead and hop right into it. Remember, check the description for all the stuff that I'm using. I'm going to give you one more piece of advice before we start. Make sure you use glass, especially if you're going to ever try and make another room spray, diffuser, candle, anything like that again. Don't use plastic. The fragrance can leach into the plastic. It can really mess stuff up down the line. A couple of these different glass things that I have, you don't need as many as I have. You can just use one if you want. You just got to be a little bit more careful when you're measuring. I have some for fragrance oils, some for alcohol, some for mixing. That's just my process because I'm making such huge quantities of stuff and making so many different types of products, but you certainly don't need to do that. Pretty much all you need is a scale, your fragrance, your alcohol, or whatever you're mixing the fragrance with to diffuse it, some type of glass measuring cup, and then I would recommend having some of these little squeezer guys. These are super cheap on Amazon. You can get a pack of a bunch of them, so that way you never mix. I use those so if I ever over pour anything, I can make sure I can put it back, keep my ratios correct. They're a good way to do that. I really like these things. I just then get little stick labels and label those. Same with my plunger things that will be shown on screen right now. Just little white labels. It helps to be able to just label everything so there's no cross-contamination. If you're only using 1 scent, you may not need to do that, but I gotta make sure that everything is right where it's supposed to be, so that's how I keep myself organized, because I have about 30 of these things floating around at any given time, and I want to make sure that when I'm, pouring stuff back into a huge container, I'm not messing the whole thing up, putting the wrong thing in the wrong place. So that helps keep me organized, but it's going to be a super simple process. I already have my fragrance oil measured out. Now we're going to do 20% fragrance. So in this case, I'm going to make a 2-ounce room spray. That's usually the type of bottle that I have when I'm just testing stuff out. I also like to use these little glass ones. These are great. You can get these on Amazon. They're nice because they have a twist top and they're glass. So the fragrance won't get all messed up if they sit in here for a while. You can travel with them. They're small enough and the fragrance doesn't leak because it's a twist top. I used to use the plastic ones like you could get at Nordstrom, and I still occasionally use those if I'm just sending out a small sample to someone or I'm getting feedback on something. But those ones tend to spill a little bit easier, so I like these glass ones a lot, and they're really not much more expensive than the plastic ones. A lot better deal. But let's get into actually making it. It is going to be super simple. All I'm going to do here, turn my scale back on. Now I'm making a 2-ounce room spray, so I already got that. Now, depending on your fragrance needs, I do anywhere from 20 to 25%. Simple math makes it pretty easy. I actually misspoke earlier. I said 20%. I'm going to do 25% for this one. 20% is usually what I keep my diffusers at. Room sprays, I'll do 25% depending on the fragrance. Some are stronger than others. So once you make it, don't start just spraying it like crazy. If you do a 25%, spray it once, make sure that you're not gassing yourself out in your little bedroom or bathroom or wherever you're spraying it, because 25% is going to be strong. For comparison, that's probably about twice what your cologne or perfume is if you're just buying an Eau de Toilette. So it is going to be strong. It's what you want out of a room spray because it's got to fill a big space. Don't overdo it though. Be lenient with the sprays. But let's go ahead and just mix it nice and easy here. So I already have a bunch of my Perfumer alcohol poured into this big jug. It comes in huge quantities and it's really hard to pour without spilling. So I pour it into here. And then what I do, and you don't need to do this, I recommend like buying a smaller thing. They're a lot easier to pour with, a lot easier to handle, and you probably don't need a giant thing unless you're planning to start selling, but start small and grow as you get orders and things. But I got my labeled Perfumer Alcohol, so I'm just gonna so I need 1.5 ounces of my Perfumer Alcohol here. So I'm just gonna keep going until I get 1.5 ounces of it. So that's gonna be a couple of these things. I could have grabbed my bigger syringes. I have all different sizes of them. The ones I'm using now, I really like. If you don't want to have to pour into a separate container, I got these ones that have an extra long bit at the end here, so that if I'm putting it inside one of my bottles, I can still get stuff out. Because with my bigger ones, you'll notice the nozzles are really short on the end, and so it makes it really difficult to actually stick it into a bottle. But I always measure or pour out of my gigantic, like 5-pound jugs of Perfumer Alcohol into these other glass containers because it makes it a lot easier. I'm gonna need about one more of these, I think. And especially if you're making this at home, don't worry about being overly precise. It's gonna be okay if you do a few drops extra of this or a few drops extra of that. Just don't go crazy. Then I'm just gonna take my popsicle sticks. That's what I use. I have metal ones on the way so that I can clean and reuse them, but for now, popsicle sticks work just great. I just keep one fragrance on one side, one fragrance on the other side so that I'm not mixing because I don't want any cross-contamination. And it's super easy. We're just mixing the fragrance oil, putting the alcohol in. It's gonna stir about 20 times. Simple, easy. You can do this at home, no problem. If you don't want to do this at home, feel free to buy one of my room sprays. You can check out all my products at srph.store. But now our room spray is done, so we're just gonna grab a bottle for it. I'm gonna bottle it up. I've been making a ton of products, so I gotta use these plastic bottles that are my leftovers until my new ones actually arrive. And then I can use those. But sometimes, depending on how precise I'm trying to fill it, I'll usually not use a funnel. But because we're just making it at home, I'm storing it temporarily. I'm gonna measure it all out super precisely to make sure, all my bottles are at the exact same fill line. We'll do that later. For today, and because I know I have plenty of space in this bottle, these are like 3.5 ounce bottles and I only made 2 ounces of this, I can safely just pour it in my funnel. Again, super cheap. Get these funnels for $1. All this stuff, it doesn't have to cost a lot. Probably already have an extra funnel at your house too, just sitting in your kitchen that you never use. I think that's where I got this one from. I don't even think I bought this one actually. All done. Now, I was making a different one in all the close-up shots, so you'll see it's a different bottle. Put my sticker on, and you can see it actually comes to life, and it's a product that, these are not my permanent ones that I'm going to use, but they're what I do at events when I'm testing out new products. Before I get all of my fancy containers, before I ship everything, get all the boxes, all of that stuff, I always test out my products just to make sure that it's correct. It's what I want to bring to market. All the mixtures are right. I get plenty of feedback. Is it strong enough? Is it too strong? Do I need to adjust things? Making sure that everything works exactly the way it's supposed to. So that's kind of what you're seeing. That's going to an event that I'm doing where, it's a bunch of clients coming in, people that, are friends of the store owner. So it's okay to have it not be super fancy. But if you're just doing stuff at home, don't worry about making it too fancy. Even these plastic bottles, I'll link these if you want a bigger bottle, you don't want to do the 2 ounce. These ones are going to be fine. After time, like, the fragrance will degrade. They are plastic. I like glass better, but if you want to go cheap, you can use these. It's totally fine. Do whatever is going to be easiest for you, especially if you're just making it for your home. But I like to keep one in my bedroom, I have one in my bathroom, I have one in my living room, a couple different scents at a time depending on what I'm feeling. And yeah, leave any questions below that you have. Happy to answer them. Happy to give you any advice that I possibly can. Make sure to follow me on Instagram. It's srph_store. Follow us on TikTok at srph.store and visit our website, srph.store. Would appreciate a like, subscribe, comment even if you don't have a question, and just tell me what fragrance you're using, how you use a room spray, if it's your first time making one or not, or what other products you want to see me make. I plan to do some candle videos, some diffuser videos, and I'd also, if there's any common issues or problems people are having, I'd like to address those as well. Help you guys make stuff as successfully as possible. But I appreciate you watching, and I will see you soon.